everybody. So, apparently Mallory hasn't heard the story of how I nearly joined a sex cult. And, well, now I think it's time for me to tell the story. So, as everybody knows, I've lived all over the country. I've been from Washington all the way down to Florida, up to New York. And I've had some strange fucking encounters in my time on this earth. But none have been as strange as the time I was 19. And within the same week, I nearly got inducted into a sex cult at a place called The Sanctuary. I found a place called The Milk Bar, and I had a girl ask if I wanted to join her in her coffin. I had another one ask if I wanted to get fucked by a demon. And I got asked if I wanted to help impregnate somebody's sister. Because they have been trying for months and were unable. And those are some of the stories that stick with you for life. So here you go, Mallory. One time I was left alone. I should never be left alone. I should never have the opportunity to do whatever it is that I feel I should do. Left to my own devices, I will get myself into a litany of trouble that can only be rivaled by me being put in jail at this point. So, with my parents gone, everybody out of the house, I said, I need to look for something to do. I need to find a hobby or go meet somebody. This was back when I was social, and there's a reason I'm no longer social. We're getting there. Don't worry. So, I start looking on Google, and I say, how am I gonna find something to do today? So, start looking around, and eventually, I type in a scavenger hunt. And normally a scavenger hunt's pretty, that's not too bad. We have kids do scavenger hunts all the time. Like, how hard could it be? So I find a couple, that you have to pay for, and I ain't, look. If there's one thing it's fucking cheap. I wanted to spend zero money on it, and I didn't want to have anybody tell me what I needed to be doing besides what I needed to find and give me a prize. So, I get on about the 4th or 5th page of Google, and it tells me that I have a scavenger hunt. And it's not asking me to pick anything up, it's asking me to go to different places, talk to different people. So, 8 o'clock the next morning, I wake up, and I say, I'm going to do this scavenger hunt. Well, that was the first 8 o'clock in the morning that I probably should have just been at home. So I get out and I go start searching, and the very first thing it asked me to do is go to this bar somewhere in Golden, Colorado. I thought, okay. So I go up to the bar and meet these people. It's actually in Lyons, and they want me to meet these people and tell them I'm starting a scavenger hunt. They give me a list of things I need to say to certain people in certain places. And I said, alright, that's kind of strange. Like different codes. Like, that's weird. But my sense of danger was turned up pretty high, but my sense of preservation was a whole lot lower than you may be led to believe by the end of the story. So, I go to all these different places, and I meet all these different people. They say, hey, what's the phrase for this place? And I'm like, tacos or whatever, and they, alright. And each place that I go is more and more shady. The first bar looked like an actual establishment, and by the time I got to the last one, it looked like a place where they sell children. And at that moment, I should have realized, maybe I should leave. Maybe I should go home. I should just start playing some video games, watch TV or whatever, and just ignore the fact that I ever started this whole endeavor. But Mama ain't raised no bitch, so here we go. I get up to the last guy, and he says, "What's the phrase?" And I tell him, and he says, "All right." And the very last guy hands me a piece of paper. He says, "Do not open this until you arrive." Gives me an address and says, be there at 8. I said, "All right, I think I can be there at 8." So I'm waiting, going around, getting something to eat, hanging out, and in the back of my head, I got this strange feeling like maybe something is awry. Why would a shady guy at a bar hand me a piece of paper, tell me not to open it, and then tell me to go to the place at 8 o'clock? I don't know. It just doesn't add up. So eventually I get to where I need to be at 8 o'clock. And this place is a fucking warehouse with a purple door. And that's all that's on that warehouse. It's just a fucking large warehouse with one door. Not a large door, mind you, not a garage door, not a door where other people can see the activities on the other side. This is a door that wants to keep people out. So I pull up to the parking lot. There's one light on the side of this warehouse that's actually lighting up the purple door, and then it's just fucking pitch black. And this isn't a fucking shady part of town. A place that I personally, in all 19 years that I had lived in Colorado at that time, had never been before. I said, okay, I'm not feeling this. So I get out of the car and I go in. And there's a guy standing at a desk, and he's wearing a robe. It's dark. I mean, it is advanced dark. It is, only thing I can see is a silhouette of what looks like a KKK member about ready to touch my butthole, but luckily for me, I am not the kind of people he likes to touch anyway, so we're all good. Oh, look at that. Well, y'all nearly saw me get arrested. But I'm driving, and this cop just pulls up next to me and kind of looks at me for a second. Here I am telling the story about the time I nearly got touched by what I assume was a KKK member at a door. Great. So I hand him the piece of paper, and he turns on a light, reads it, looks at me, looks back down at the paper, looks back at me, looks back down at the paper, looks back at me, looks down at the paper, looks at me, and says, "Are you sure?" Now, there are 2 opportunities I've had since I've arrived to bounce. And each time I say, "Nah, man, I'm good." I've been working on this scavenger hunt now for 7 hours. I'm gonna see what the fuck is on the other side of that door. And I say, "Yes, sir." What's the code phrase? And I don't remember what it was, but I tell him. He says, "All right." Turns off the light, and then all these candles light up around the door. And there's some theatrics there, because I don't know how the fuck you light candles up around the door. But he did it. And he says, "You may proceed." So now I have a choice. I can either run like a little bitch, or I can walk inside of here and claim my prize. Well, I think since I'm telling the story, y'all know what my prize was. I walk in, and I can't see a goddamn thing. I said, "Well, what the fuck? What am I supposed to do with this?" And all of a sudden a voice comes out and it said, "What is the strangest type of sex you've ever, or the most dangerous type of sex you've ever had?" And I said, "What the fuck? I really haven't had any dangerous sex. I'm a anti-danger kind of guy. Like, danger and me don't get along. I ignore danger when it's time for danger to be afoot. I let future me deal with a lot of problems. And I guess like the most danger I've really ever been put in is I used to rock climb and I fell off a couple of cliffs." So I tell him a story that I read on Reddit. And It was about a guy that got tied up and whipped and everything, and it really wasn't that crazy given all the stuff that I've sent you guys over the time that I've known you. But to me, at that time, like that was as crazy as it got, you know. And so they all kind of laugh a little bit. There's apparently a large circle of people around me. So the lights turn on, and there's a whole bunch of people, and not one of them really looks like they're too far away from taking a dive right into the grave. And they're all like, "Oh, honey, we're going to change that." Like, Grandma, how the fuck are you going to change that? I might break your hip, or you may break your hip, or what happens if one of your boobs get caught in one of the contraptions you're going to talk to me about? What happens then? And so there's a staircase in the middle of this warehouse that doesn't go anywhere. It's just a few stairs. And there's this lady in a red dress. And she's really pretty. She's got long brown hair. It's kind of curled up. Kind of looks like the girl from Casablanca almost. Except hypersexualized and dirty. Just fucking, man, I guarantee that vagina she had on her probably needed to be quarantined or at least put inside of a toxic waste facility, because I don't know, man, there was just something going on with her. And she walks down the staircase all presenting and everything and said, "Well, welcome to the sanctuary. Would you like a tour?" Well, bitch, I've been working on this shit for 7 hours. Of course I want a tour. I want to know what the fuck is going on. So she takes me around and she says, "This is where the initiates will be initiated into here. This is where the initiates are going to take place." And I say, "The initiation? What initiation?" She said, "You'll find out." It's okay. That's a little strange. Get on up to this little hallway, and she's telling me, like, this is where we have our meetings, this is where we have our snacks, and, you know, all different kinds of stuff, initiate. And she keeps calling me initiate as if I am joining something I shouldn't be. And I said, shit, maybe I made a mistake. So then we get up to this other door, and she opens it up and it goes downstairs. And she says, "Would you like to see the dungeon?" Well, I've never been one to let my curiosity not take over. Of course I want to see the dungeon. So she takes me downstairs, and if you imagine a stable, you know, there's about 5 or 6 different little horse stalls from left to right. And she looks at me and she says, "If the curtain is open, you're allowed to join. If it's closed, don't open it." That's okay. I mean, those are pretty simple rules, alright? Like, how can I not follow that? So the ones that I can see are, there's 3 of them. And there's one, this guy is like tied to a board, and he has this little wooden board with holes. This board tied to his testicles. You know, it's got 2 holes drilled out on a piece of 2x4, and this lady somehow managed to pop both testicles through this board, right? And that's already strange enough. But she's asking him questions, and she's like, yeah, and I don't know what she's saying to him, but every time it seems like he gets an answer wrong, she said, "I'm going to twist this board." And I said, "Oh, God." So she goes, and he answers the first question wrong, and she takes his board, and she turns it 180 degrees, the testicles turn purple, and this guy is fucking screaming. This does not look like a sexual encounter. This looks like fucking torture. But apparently anybody that's in there has consented to everything that's going to happen today. So there's not much I can say about it. So, me being me, rather than turn around and run like I probably should have and just go home and ignore everything, I kind of stand there for a minute watching, just amazement that like somebody signed up to have this happen. Well, go on to the next one, and this lady is got this other guy. He's handcuffed to like what looks like a little bed, like an operating table almost, and she's got a bunch of like needles that you would use for sewing stuck inside of them with little colorful tips. And she's saying something to him, and she's putting each little pin inside of him. And every time she puts a pin in him, he goes, poke, ah, poke, ah, poke, ah. And I guess she didn't like the fact that he was making that noise, so she covers his mouth and, what in the fuck is happening, Mallory? I don't understand. So then this guy has needles from basically his toes all the way down up to his chest, and this bitch just gets on top of him and starts going to town. She starts riding the fuck out of him. That can't possibly be safe. I know this is not a sterile environment. Like, I need a calculator. Shit ain't adding up. I don't know what the fuck's going on. So, barring all of that, I move on. I press on. I'm going to look at this last one. I'll make my decision based off of that. And this last one isn't as memorable, but what it does have is staying power. So I watch this guy. He has something tied around his penis and his testicles, and it's dangling from his legs. And there's a lady that every time she says something, she takes this whip and whips his butt cheeks. And the guy, instead of screaming, goes, "Oh," like a fucking cow. And he turns around. The reason why he moves like that is because he can't use his mouth. They have something over it so that his lips don't touch. And at that point, I said, okay, this is way too much for me. So then I look back at the lady that walked down the stairs, and she says, so what do you think? Would you like to join our sanctuary? So I walk my ass right back up those stairs. I go right back across the warehouse. I don't say a single word to any of these people. If they're allowing this type of degeneracy in my good Christian suburbs, I have found the wrong type of people to be associated with. This is not something for Robbie. Robbies do not do these things. Robbies go home and Robbies watch cartoons and pretend that this never happened and doesn't speak about it again for at least another 6 months. And that's exactly what the fuck I did. I got back up and they were pretty fucking pissed off that I found this and wanted to be a part of it so fucking bad. I didn't want to be a part of it. I wanted to find a scavenger hunt, and I wanted to find something to do and possibly meet some people on a fucking Wednesday. I had no idea that I was going to have to go through initiation and be subjected to that type of shit. So I walk right out the door. They're pretty pissed off. They're like, where are you going? Like, I'm going to fuck home. So I get back to my car and I drive off and I get home and I don't speak to a single person for the rest of the day into the next day. And that was probably the best decision I could have made at that exact moment, because my other choice was I could have been one of those guys with shit wrapped around my testicles, and I possibly could have been like Marty or somebody else, all excited that I might lose a testicle one day. And that is the story of how I nearly joined a sex cult.